All right, welcome to the Zone Live playoff edition here at the Longview News Journal studios. Guys, a lot of good football this weekend. This is, I tell you what, fun time of year for everybody still involved. Hoping the weather cooperates. We'll get that out of the way first. Obviously, if you're keeping up with football, you're probably keeping up with the weather too, because there's a possibility of some severe weather, icy weather, Friday, possibly Saturday. I already have one change. If you haven't seen it, we've tweeted it out and put it online a few times. But Gladewater and Argyle, they're still going to play Friday night. That game, instead of 7:30, is going to be at 6 o'clock now at Kincaid Stadium in Dallas. That's the only change we know of so far. If we get any more, we'll definitely tweet it out to you. We'll put it on etvarsity.com. We'll let you know about that. But that's the only change we have so far. Let's talk some football. And I think the game most people are talking about right now is going to be Kilgore and Chapel Hill, Class 3A, 3A Division II, Region II final. This is one of those that a District of Doom rematch, playing it at close by here in East Texas, 7:30 Friday night at Rose Stadium in Tyler. The thing that jumped out about me this one, guys, is I live in Kilgore, driving through there today, and up on the Whataburger sign says "Beat Chapel Hill." That's the second time I've seen that sign this year. And that, anytime you play a district rival twice, it's going to come late in the playoffs, because that's the way everything's set up. So that makes the game even bigger. It's going to be a great game. George Whitley will cover it for us. But guys, what are your thoughts on this one? Hayden first. I mean, this is it's just a classic matchup.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that really sticks out to me is Chapel Hill's quarterback, Andrew Black, really coming on strong. The Kilgore defense is obviously doing a lot of good things, but really just a unique situation. I think we saw it last year with Gilmer and Henderson meeting up in this round. So real cool to see these district opponents getting a second time through. I know Chapel Hill has had some injuries return, or key players return from injuries. So it might be a little different matchup Friday over in Tyler.
Exactly. Brandon, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, going into the playoffs, we thought this would be a possibility. Chapel Hill, yeah, they had 4 losses, but when you looked at who those 2 losses were to, once they got in the playoffs, that they weren't going to see teams there and what they'd already played: White House, Carthage, Gilmer, and Kilgore. And then we were talking about this earlier. They lost a running back that committed Texas Tech, Joseph Clark. Plug in another guy. You don't see it at the 3A level, but who's going to Louisiana Monroe? Wesley Thompson, and I think he's close to 1,000 yards now. So they have some weapons, and Kilgore, their weapons with Kevin Justice and them, Juju Brown. They're dangerous too. It's going to be a fun game at the Rose.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that jumps out to me in this game, I mean, obviously with Kilgore, you got Kevin Justice with 1,400 yards, 28 rushing touchdowns. Juju Brown's over 1,000 yards now, 15 touchdowns. Benny Colbert has come back at quarterback. He's throwing the ball pretty well, but he jumped out rushed for 200 yards last week against Frisco Lone Star. Like Kilgore needs another weapon, another rushing threat. He gives them that, but the defense. Hayden's going to go over and talk to Coach Wood today and do a little bit of stuff. We'll have a story Friday. We're going to talk some defense, talk some various things, but he'll get into the defense. Defense last week had 10 sacks against Frisco Lone Star. 10 sacks, 2 interceptions, 2 block kicks. They've got a front 3 on that defensive line that one kid has 11 sacks, one has 9, one has 9.5. So they get after the quarterback. And this should be a great game. I mean, again, rematch game. They met on October 25th in Kilgore. Kilgore won that game 42-25. Kevin Justice had a huge game on the ground, but Andrew Black lit up that Kilgore secondary. He threw for 348 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's not going to be an easy game for Kilgore, and I know they know that. I know Coach Wood's not going to let them get too far ahead of themselves. So that's going to be a great game.
Black. He has 3,822 total yards and 47 touchdowns combined.
Right, and
that's just him.
Great numbers. He's a passing threat, but he's also a rushing threat. So, should be a great game at Rose Stadium. I'd get there early if you're planning on going, because that place is going to be packed. So let's move on to another 3A game. This is in Region 3, and this one is very important, because if these teams get by this week and next, Kilgore and Carthage could end up playing for a state championship. Carthage is playing West Orange Stark, 7:30 Friday in Beaumont at Beaumont ISD Stadium. Carthage, impressive win last week. Just amazing. Silsbee is a good football team, and Carthage destroyed him 49-6. West Orange Stark had a little bit of trouble with Jasper, had to score late to win that one. What your thoughts on the Carthage Bulldogs, Hayden?
I mean, it's a big game, big perennial powers heading squaring off. I think there's going to be 7 FBS Division I players on the field at any given time. Common opponent in Jasper, which I think both teams kind of struggled with. Carthage pulled away with the 15-point win when they played Jasper. West Orange Start beat them by 2 last week, and that was with Jasper blowing 2 leads late in the game. So we got West Orange Start after a 1-1 start that's holding opponents to about 16 points a game, while Carthage averaging 39 points a game. Yeah, West Orange Start. That's a mouthful. Quarterback Dylan Sterling Cole and Blake Bogenschutz from Carthage have combined for 5,553 yards, 74 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. So that's
Crazy numbers.
Crazy
numbers. Any thoughts on them, Brandon?
Well, I mean, you can throw out West Orange Stark limited opponents, but good luck against Carthage, because, 2 weeks ago they had Navasota, supposed to, finish, state champs. Carthage took them out. Last week had Silsbee, Carthage. I mean, someone's got to slow down Carthage and beat them before I believe it can be done.
Exactly. And part of the problem with slowing down Carthage, you look at Blake Bogenschutz, kid's thrown for 3,300 yards, 48 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. You got T. Gorey as a receiver, one of the best in the state, 74 catches, 1,400 yards, 25 receiving touchdowns. I'd have to look at the numbers. That's got to be close to the top of the state. But I think a kid that maybe gets overlooked a little bit is Tevin Pipkin, the running back. Pipkin had a little over 200 yards last week rushing. This kid right now is he's on pace. He's a little over 5,000 yards for his career. He's the second running back in Carthage history to have that many rushing yards. He needs just a few, and I apologize, I don't have the exact numbers right now, but he's very close.
15 yards
says
away.
15 yards away from being the all-time leading rusher at Carthage High School, and they've had some good kids come through there. So it should be another great game there. Carthage is going to have to roll. Carthage is going to roll, and we have a question. What do you got?
Do you think Carthage will make it to state, and will weather be a factor?
I'm going to say yes on the weather. Obviously, if what hits is supposed to hit, if what's supposed to hit really does hit, we're not talking just wet and cold. We're talking some ice. I don't know how that's going to affect you. If you move games around, if you're prepared to play on Friday, you end up playing on Saturday. Who knows what happens there? Plus, you got to keep your hands on the ball. And when cold is one thing, wet and icy is another. Trying to hang on to the football. As far as will Carthage make it the state, gosh, guys, they still have to. If you win this game against West Orange Stark, you're looking at either Gonzales or LaGrange next week. Right now, I wouldn't bet against them. Nobody's even slowed them down. It's not like they're playing close games right now in the playoffs against very good teams. So I like Carthage's chances. I would love to see it. Would love to see a Kilgore-Carthage state championship game. That would just be that would be some crazy football. So we're hoping for that. I like their chances. I really like their chances of making it all the way. All right, let's move on. We're going to get some 2A games in. Let's start with Dangerfield and New Boston, another district rival matchup. Dangerfield is just an amazing program out there. You just, at the start of this year, I know it's Dangerfield, and you always have to consider that they might be really good, and they might be, but they just seem to do nothing but win at Dangerfield, and it's just amazing what they do. This will be, they're getting ready. They won back-to-back state championships. They didn't play for one, and then they played for it again last year. Now they got they're still rolling again. What more can you say about this? Dangerfield versus New Boston, 7:30 Friday, Sam Parker Field in Mount Pleasant. Another district rematch. What are your thoughts, Brandon?
Well, earlier in the year, New Boston was rolling, top 5 in the state. Met Dangerfield, and Dangerfield beat them pretty handily. So I bet they're looking for the chance to maybe get some revenge and end Dangerfield season and keep theirs alive. But their only loss is to Dangerfield, so it should be a good game.
Exactly, and Dangerfield hasn't lost to a 2A team this year. Their 3 losses have come to Gilmer, Gladewater, and Atlanta. All 3 of those were playoff teams. Gladewater's still rolling. We'll talk about them in a minute, but defensively, they may have the player of the year in the state, and especially in Class 2A. Young man Kelshin Neal, defensive lineman, a little bit undersized. I think his coach told me early in the season he's about 5'10", 180. And the thing that the coach told me about Mr. Neal is, and I still remember this, said when they are practicing, they can't even run their offense when he's on the field. He's that disruptive. They have to, and obviously other teams are having trouble running their offenses too. I mean, this kid's got 169 tackles, 23 sacks, 56 tackles for losses. I mean, he's in the backfield more than a quarterback. So, I mean, he's obviously a great player. Other number that jumps out to me on this one is, Dangerfield can throw the ball. They like to throw the ball a little bit, but their bread and butter is running game. Cordarius Anderson, this kid has come on. He's up to now 1,400 yards, 27 rushing touchdowns. In the playoffs, though, he has really, really turned it on. This kid's carried 51 times for 452 yards and 7 touchdowns, just in the 3 playoff games. So quite a weapon for him. And you know that New Boston's going to be wanting some revenge. Got another question?
Another question. What are the injury statuses of both Kilgore and Chapel Hill?
What do you know, Ed? To be honest, I have not heard of any major injuries to any players. We know that Chapel Hill lost a standout player early in the year, but as far as key players, I have not heard of one player that's going to miss any playing time in this game. And that's pretty amazing. Those are teams that win state championships if you can keep your key players healthy. If we hear of any, and if we do locate any, we'll have all that information in our previews. But as of now, I haven't heard of any major injuries for either team. All right, moving on. We've got about 3 more games to talk about real quick. We're running out of time, but a big one is White Oak and Franklin. Actually, we skipped Gladewater. We skipped right over the Gladewater Bears. We'll let Hayden and Brandon both talk about Gladewater. Unique here is Hayden has covered Argyle, and both of them have covered Gladewater at one time. What are your thoughts? Talk a little bit about Gladewater first.
The Bears, I mean, the thing about them is they have so many guys that, 2 weeks ago it was Dalen Mack that had 179 rushing yards. Last week, James Reese was, running, and all of a sudden, freshman Darnell McKnight comes in and makes some big runs. Daryl Polk, he didn't get a carry the whole first half. First 5 plays, the second half, 4 of them, he 3 carries and got a reception. They have so many guys that they just plug in there, and they're so young. They only have 6 seniors on their roster. So this run for Gladewater wasn't really expected, but they're just on a run right now, and whatever happens, they're definitely happy to still be playing and get more experience for next year. But they also want to take their shot at Argyle, a very good team that Hayden saw last week.
Yeah. I mean, Ty, would you say I think Gladewater's 7 wins are the fewest left in 11-man football in the state of Texas. So, but quick hit on Argyle. I mean, really, I think a big game in the trenches. Argyle's got Ian Stallard committed to Texas Tech, put up good numbers. I was really impressed by their fullback, Nick Ralston. Stallard has all the touchdowns and all the flash, but Ralston's a hard runner and very impressive there.
Okay. All right, let's move on. We're kind of running out of time. Don't want to shortchange anybody. Talk a little bit about White Oak and Franklin. The Roughnecks are playing football. This is the longest they've been playing football since 1970. Great season for the Roughnecks. Got a story that'll run in tomorrow's newspaper, tomorrow's Longview News Journal, and on etvarsity.com, talking about the Roughnecks and what they've accomplished. But, be honest with you, we're having trouble finding information on Franklin. We got a little bit. We know what they did last week. We know they're 13-0. That's really all you got to know about those guys. They're a good football team. White Oak, great offensive numbers with Dylan Gale at quarterback. Again, 33 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I'm amazed at the numbers some of these quarterbacks are putting up. As many times they're putting the ball in the air and not throwing interception, not turning it over, and that's obviously why they're still playing football this time of year. Wascom and Corrigan Camden, and by the way, that game, 7:30 Friday, Wildcat Stadium in Palestine. That's White Oak and Franklin. Wascom and Corrigan Camden, if you like teams that run the football, this is your game. I wouldn't expect, especially with the weather that they're expecting, I'm going to say right now there won't be 6 passes thrown in the entire game. That's going to be my prediction. We'll see how that turns out. These teams just flat out run the football. Wascom already has 3 1,000-yard rushers. Kevin Johnson with 1,500. Junebug Johnson with 1,300. We've got Dylan Benton with 1,100. And quarterback Trace Carter's got 888, so he's got a chance to give them 4. And then Corrigan Camden has a kid with 2,200 yards, another kid with 1,400, another kid closing in on 1,000. Again, if you like to see teams throw the football around, go somewhere else Friday night.